Alright, 5th grade. Today what we're going to do is we're going to pick a narrative essay topic. So yesterday we looked at 2 examples of essays. We talked about them. Today what we are going to do is we are going to decide what are we going to write about for our narrative essay. Remember, narrative essay is a personal story from your life. Okay, so today we're going to talk about one story from your life that's a positive memory, and then also a story from your life that is a negative memory. Okay, we're going to look at those 2 stories. We're going to pick one and decide which one we want to write our essay on. Okay, so we're going to do today. So here on this first slide, all right, so that's slide number 2, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to talk about a happy memory from your life. Okay, something that you can look back on sometime in the past, and it makes you feel good. Makes you smile, makes you feel a little warm. Okay, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do this with you. So the first one that I'm going to write about, my happy memory. My happy memory when, so there's a little sentence starter. Okay, and if you need a second to think, you can always pause this video. Just think back to an earlier time. Was when we got our old dog. So happy memory for me was when we got our old dog. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Okay, so what was the memory? My happy memory was when my parents told me that we got a new dog. Okay. What was the climax of this event? Now, we talked about plot diagrams earlier in the year, back in the fall. We're talking about wholes, putting it into a plot diagram. Remember, the climax is always that part at the very top of your plot diagram, the most intense, the most exciting part, the part where you feel butterflies in your heart because it's so exciting. Right? That's the climax. And so in my happy memory, when we got our dog, the climax, the most exciting, happiest part of this event in my life So the most exciting part, the thing that I still remember to this day, was when my parents said, we get to keep him. We get to keep the dog. We were dog sitting. We were babysitting for a family for their dog. And his name was Kirby. He was a very sweet dog. We had him for a couple weeks. And then one day, it was a Sunday. It was my brother's birthday. It was May 1st. Never forget. I believe it was 2010. It was a Sunday. We were about to go out and eat. My parents said, you know what? You guys like Kirby? We said, yeah, we like Kirby. He's awesome. They said, well, we get to keep him. And I'll never forget that moment. That was the climax of this event. Okay. What did you learn from this event? A very important thing when we talk about stories from our own lives. It's important that we learn something from them. We take something away to use for the rest of our life. Okay. What I learned from this event here about getting a new dog, adding a new person to our family. What I learned was that adding members to my family made it stronger, right? We have a new dog now. I have my cat at home. Someday I will get married. Someday my brother will get married and have children. And once your family gets bigger, it becomes stronger, right? And yes, even though that day all we did was add a dog to it, it still made us feel closer together, made us feel stronger. That's what I learned from this event. Okay? All right. So, if you need to pause, keep on thinking about filling out this memory of a happy time in your life. Do not write what I wrote. This is my memory. Okay? 2010, you guys are hardly born. So please, you were not there. Please don't write this memory. I want you to think about a happy memory in your life, or an exciting memory. Okay. What was the memory? What was the most important part, the high point, the exciting part, and then what did you learn from this event? Okay. All right. Next, what we'll do. So if you need to have a little bit more time there, you can pause. We're going to move on. So memory of an unhappy time now. I'm going to think about a memory of an unhappy time in my life, a trying time, a troubling, a sad time. So for me, one of the saddest parts growing up for me was when my grandma passed away. I was actually in 5th grade when my grandma passed away. It was very sad, and it was a very trying time. It was one of the first times in my life that I really felt like I was challenged. Like I really, it was sad. It was a sad moment. It's usually the first person in my life that I lost that was very important to me. What was the climax of this event? Excuse me, make this into a sentence. Okay. Here's a little sentence starter for you for this sentence. So now we're not thinking about the most exciting or happy time of the story, because this is not a happy memory, right? We're going to think about the thing that happened in the story that was the high point. It maybe was the moment that you found out something, or it was the moment that something happened, right? Like I know a student last year talked about a car accident that they were in. The climax of their story was the car accident when they were driving down the road and they got hit by another car, right? That was the moment something happened. That was the most intense part, right? For me, I'm going to tell you about a time that I found out that my grandma passed away. So the climax of this event was when Mom told me and all of my cousins that my grandma passed away. Okay. So the climax of this event, when I found out this very sad news, that is the climax. Okay. What did I learn from this event? I learned to spend more time with my loved ones. All right, I learned to spend more time with the people that are important to me, because someday they might not be here. Okay. All right, so now we have a happy memory, and we have an unhappy memory, or a trying, sad, scary memory. I want you to pause if you're not quite done with this slide here, and finish that up. But I'm going to go down to slide number 3. And this is where we're actually going to pick a topic. Okay, here we go. Here's the top of the next slide. And this is the last thing that we'll do for today. So you have 2 memories you talked about on the slide before. You talked about a happy memory, talked about a sad memory. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at those 2, and we're going to pick one. Okay, that's not to say that the other one is not important. That event is still important in your life. We're just going to pick one to write about. Okay? If you would like to, when we're all done, you feel like, hey, I might want to write another narrative essay about that other memory that I was talking about. You can definitely do that. Okay? So, between these 2 memories, which one will you write about? So first, I choose my memory from when my grandma passed away. Okay. I choose my memory from when my grandma passed away. And then why did I decide this event? So you see I have a question here. Why? Choose this memory because it changed me as a person. Right? Changed me as a person. I remember that was a very important thing for me. My grandma was always someone that I could talk to, even though I was pretty young, right? I was in 5th grade when she passed away. But it was a really big part of my life, a very big point. Okay. So here we're going to write down again what was the climax. We already said on this slide here, what is the climax? Climax of this event was when my mom told me and all of my cousins that my grandma passed away. If you want to, You can highlight that. You can copy it. And you can paste it. If you want to do, oh, I guess it's a little smaller, but we've already done that work with the climax that we decided what was the most intense part of this story, right? Maybe something happened or you found out something. That is the climax. Okay. Now, this next part here is going to be a little bit trickier. We got to think a little bit more back to this memory. Okay, we have to access parts deep in your memory, deep in your mind. Okay, so these first three things here, I'm going to ask you, what were three important details that led up to, so they were right before the climax happened. So right before, for me, when I found out that my grandma passed away because my mom told me and all my cousins, what happened before that? Okay, so first, for me, my grandma was very sick. She had cancer. Okay. She was very sick. She had cancer. We were afraid she was not going to be able to make it. Okay. Another important detail leading up to the climax. All of my family came to Sioux Falls, which is where I grew up, to see her. All right. And then also, all of my cousins had pizza at my house, while the adults were at the hospital saying goodbye. That one's a little long. Okay, all of my cousins were at my house, we're having pizza, and all the adults were at the hospital saying their goodbyes to my grandma. Okay, so what were some important details now after I found out that she had passed away? I have to think about it. Okay, I remember all of my aunts and uncles. All of my aunts and uncles crying back at my house. I remember the look on my mom's face because I had never seen her like that before. We had a funeral in her hometown a few days later. Okay, so here are three important things that happened before I found out, before the climax. Here are three things that happened after the climax that are very important. Okay, so the last thing here, I'm going to move this here, make another text box. Actually, let's do this one. Pardon me for a minute. I forgot to make one more text box. Here we go. Okay, so last thing, what did we learn from this event? And we have already done this work here. So here is what we will do. Okay, so we'll go back here. What did we learn from this event? I will copy this and I will paste it. This is what I learned from this event. I learned to spend more time with my loved ones. Okay, very important. All right, so if you need to go back and rewatch anything, make sure you do that. Make sure that these two slides are done for today. Remember, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., I am always available for you to come. We can finish this together. We can work on it together. If you need any help, if you need any ideas, suggestions, I'm always here. Okay. Any questions, please let me know.